Well, this is Mike Balaban. Welcome to another episode of Bammer and Me, podcast series where I interview LGBTQ people and allies around the world involved in our community and in our industries. Today, my special guest is Suzie Kruger. I should explain that you and I met over an Indian dinner hosted by mutual friends in London in March. I hadn't known of you before that, but I was instantly transfixed by what I learned that night about the world you've been part of and the scene you've dominated for the last 30 years in London and elsewhere.
Yes.
So first, I'll share with our audience that you're now 61 years old, on your way to 62. Now let's get back into I'm 72 on Monday, so I wouldn't...
Oh, yeah, your birthday. Yay.
Thank you. So let's get back to your beginnings. If you don't mind, please briefly describe your childhood and teen years in Virginia, where you were born, and then New Jersey, mostly where you grew up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was born out to Virginia, but we didn't really hang around there much. We moved to the Northeast pretty quickly with a brief stint in Chicago. But so anyway, I spent my formative years in New Jersey, and then, went to high school. Then I went to a junior college, and then from there, in between that, I did a stint in the Navy when I graduated high school because I didn't think I was going to. Yeah.
That sounds great. So when did you first begin to experience crushes on other girls? And when did you begin to understand that it probably meant you were lesbian?
Well, I think I probably had crushes on girls when I was about 10, but not when you start to feel kind of any sort of sexual feelings. So I was about 14 or 15. Bearing in mind, I had a few boyfriends because that's what everyone else was doing, but really I didn't feel anything emotionally or physically. Yeah.
That's what we all did. Hey, we had to, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, we didn't know what was available to us. And secondly, the last thing we wanted to do was to be called names. So we did our best to try to fit into what everyone was doing, even if it didn't make sense. So I think you and I, even though we're about 10 years apart, we shared that same primeval experience in the straight world.
In the 70s, yeah.
Would you explain your path after high school? You started to do that, and until you later decided to relocate to London. That includes the Navy, junior college, university, and your early professional career.
Okay, so my early professional career. Things were pretty tough at home. The family was falling apart. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I didn't do so well in my senior year of high school because I was bullied, and I spent a lot of time hanging around the park with other people who all dropped out, taking drugs and drinking. So for some reason, and I don't know why, I decided to join the Navy before I was 18. I spent my 18th birthday in the Navy, but I didn't last more than 6 weeks because I couldn't handle the discipline. It was tough.
Probably tough coming from your background to suddenly be subjected to a rigorous discipline the way the Navy.
My father was pretty damn strict, which probably added to a lot of my non-conforming and rebellion. It still affects me to this day and how I am. But yes, I went into the Navy. And then I told them I was gay, and they kicked me out.
That's a quick way to get rejected.
Oh,
back then.
Well, the story is very funny. I don't know where I got the nerve, but one morning when we're doing all our push-ups and sit-ups on this thing called the grinder, that's what they had in Jacksonville, Florida, is where I was stationed. And I stood up and I refused to do my exercises, which actually is a criminal offense, a direct disobedience. If you disobey a direct order, it's a criminal offense in the military. So they marched me off to with this, that, and the other, and I just told them I was gay and I can't stand it anymore. And so eventually they kicked me out.
The dishonorable discharge?
General discharge. I probably could have went to Bill Clinton and got that changed if I gave a shit, but I didn't.
Yeah, that's in the rearview mirror, right? That's long ago past.
Oh yeah, long time ago. Yeah, long. Oh, rearview mirror. Yeah, sorry. So then I decided to pull myself together and go to junior college to try and up my grades to get into a better school, into a better university, which includes sitting my SATs when I was probably like 19, when everyone does it when they're 15 or 16. Anyway, I went to Northeastern University in Boston.
You studied what?
Criminology.
Well, it led you somewhere. At least my recollection is you then got involved with investigating fraud.
Well, yeah, I did. I did insurance fraud when I graduated.
How'd that happen?
I was trying to get into the police. You know how they say things were meant to be. I took the New York City police exam and the Boston, which I all passed. Like, they're very easy tests. It's common sense. You know, getting like 95 out of 100, 98 out of 100. But the thing is, the New York City, I failed the psychological.
Wow.
So there was no chance. I was driving up and down between Boston and New York every other weekend, doing all the exam, the physical, and it was quite a bit. And in the end, I failed the psychological exam, but I know why.
Why?
So, because they give you this 8-hour exam, and if you don't answer they ask you the same questions over and over, but different wording. If you don't answer them with the same answer every time.
And you didn't?
No, I don't know. It had a lot to do with being insecure.
Gotcha.
It had a lot to do with being insecure and childhood trauma.
So how long did your career investigating fraud last?
Well, I could still be doing it to this day. Well, no, probably not. I graduated in 86 and I was doing insurance fraud until 1990.
And you told me you just kind of picked it up on your own, right? You didn't have any specific...
I can't remember how that got into. I was probably applying for jobs when I graduated, and one of them was, insurance fraud. So, yeah.
So then on comes 1990, which I guess we better back up to 1988 when you took your first trip to the UK. But let us understand how that happened, that you would develop a desire to move there and then actually relocate.
I think I was trying to relocate emotionally, to be honest with you. If I must be very honest here, I was trying to relocate emotionally, which never works, because when I relocated emotionally to another country, I fell into drugs. But I did come over here on vacation, and I was like, oh my God, look at the girls.
Here being London.
Yeah, so I got to London, and it was very bohemian then, and not as conservative as the living in Boston was.
So that was the appeal? Beautiful women and a little bit more free-thinking society?
Yes, completely. It was like that then. Yes.
So that was a vacation. You went back to the States and did the criminology a couple more years. And then in 1990, you emigrated.
I just picked up my stuff and moved.
And how is that, arriving in a new country? Like, at least we speak the same language, but the cultural differences must have been immense.
It was. It took me a couple of years to settle in. In fact, I think I got fired from a few jobs when I first got it because of my mouth. My accent, my loud talking, my not understanding the language or the culture here. People are not upfront, not direct as I am or was. I still am, but back then even more so. British people are like...
You think they're not as direct. They're not as volunteering of information. They're not as friendly when you first meet them.
Nope.
Did you learn how to curtail those impulses? Or did you just kind of get used to you?
Both. But I've been here 33 years. I think I picked it up by now.
I think so, too. You were initially there working on various jobs. How did you get into the whole party planning, event production, pornography, but not directly?
Well, I had an interest in fetish, and we can back up to my high school years when I was hanging around New York City before AIDS. So there was all those leather men hanging around in the village, and I was going to the dyke bars in the village, and then going to underground clubs when I was quite young, 17, 18, Hellfire, which was a heavy S&M club.
Was that in a kind of a church basement?
Meatpack. Yeah, Meatpack. Right. Yeah, I was there. I went quite a few times.
I read all about that. I never made it. Wow.
I was there, an eye-opening. I mean, the things that I saw there probably, yeah, it was interesting.
Was there much of a lesbian leather / fetish scene?
Not there, and not at this Hellfire, but in London there totally was, and I was hooked. That's where I found it was London. Coming here in 1988 with all the women in the fetish gear and the chains and the leather and the really short haircuts. And I was like, oh my God, I even think I learned what a dildo was because I didn't know before then.
I'm not sure there's an answer to my next question. It's not with the outline.
Right.
What is the appeal to someone, male or female? What is it that really draws you to a fetish scene?
I'd like to say community. You know, you're all there. You all like the same thing. You're all into the same thing. You know, the fetish gear kind of
Right.
makes you outside of the norm.
Right.
Is my answer, but I don't really. Yeah, there's a community here. There is
So there was
on the fetish scene. Yes,
an acceptance of the fact that you were an outsider and looking for others who shared the same identity.
I guess so.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's putting words in your mouth.
I don't know. I think so. I hadn't really think about it that deeply.
How did you first organize a party? How did the opportunity come to you?
Because I was working in a lesbian and gay vegetarian restaurant. It was called First Out, and I was there. I mean, this is really what happened. And when people ask me, it's not even that exciting. But there was a woman we used to come in she had a thing. So she was like, "Oh, come visit me where I'm working." And she was working in what we call in this country a clip joint. A clip joint is where you go downstairs into a little bar and there's some girl dancing on stage and you're like, yeah, I'll have that. And off you go.
Oh, so it actually led to going away with the performance.
No, nothing happened between us. But I went to visit her at her job and it was watching the dancing on the stage. And then the boss was gay. She was a lesbian and she just said to me, "Oh, do you want to organize a party here for me?" And I thought, okay. I knew nothing. It started like that, as small as that. So this was a really tiny club in London, in central London. And I don't know how come. I think I got my experience from going to other clubs. Like I worked in all the bars and all the gay clubs. So it kind of started like that, so I started it. Yeah.
How easy or challenging was it to expand your network and get more and more people interested in what you were beginning to do?
I just worked really hard at it, diligently. Part of my being an insurance fraud investigator, you have to be pedantic about things. And, you just have to investigate all areas to make sure you got it. So I just worked really, really hard. There was a lot of jealousy amongst the community about me as an outsider from America who came in and just I guess I had a talent for doing it. And then I started to make connections.
Was there any misogyny?
Hello? Hello? Still,
okay.
After all these years, I still get treated like shit by guys. Some.
Wow. Even though they know the influence you're wielding in that space, still doesn't matter, huh?
I think it's a woman's thing.
Yeah. Wow. So you began to do party after party. Now, let me just backtrack and make sure the audience follows. You got a vacation there in 88, whetted your appetite. You emigrated in 90, and if I recall correctly, you emigrated like in March, and by August you were already doing a party, right?
Yeah, September. That's correct.
September. And so a couple of years go by. How long was it before you kind of created your first night with a name on it that would become well known?
Okay, so from 1990 to 1994, I kind of stole the name from a New York City lesbian club called the Click Club. And actually, it was run by Julie, and she sure let me know she was annoyed, which is fair enough. But back then, I didn't think about other people. I just did it. So I did this for 4 years, the Click Club. It was only small. But then it began to grow, and I got a reputation. And let me just also go on to this topic. There was a sort of fetishy night here in London in the early 90s called Sadie Maisie's S&M, run by this guy. It was at a Friday night at the Lesbian and Gay Center. And it was great. Now, that was eye-opening, and we used to go, but it was very tame.
So that kind of gave you, if you will, an idea of what you could do.
In terms of a mixed party. Because
Right.
I was doing my own party before I ever went to Sadie Maisie's. So it was a mixed, for men and women, both gays and lesbians in their fetish gear and things like that. And they had little themes, and that was on a Friday night. And then other venues, like some people got a hold of me and said, "Oh, why don't you do something here?" And it was a big venue. And then Sadie Maisie's was kind of going downhill, fading out. So a friend of mine, her name's Jill, what was my connection? Obviously, they contacted me. And so I'm like, "Oh, I'll do this party. Why not? I'll try it." And also, back in that time, the techno music was really big here. Really hard techno music at a place called Trade. Trade is very world famous. Yeah, it was an after-hours club on a Sunday morning, and we loved the music there. So we kind of took the music from there because the DJ from there was my girlfriend. And so we came up with this fist, which is obviously a sexual act. Yeah, men can do it and women can do it.
Right. So if you started out with men and women, has your entire history been mixed? Or have there been some events just for women, some just for men that you do?
From 1990 to 1994 was women. Bearing in mind, I did one massive party as a fundraiser for, in this country, we had a big scandal in the early 90s, R versus Brown, the Spanner case. Do you know anything about that? Okay, the Spanner case was a group of fetish guys or S&M guys that, back then, the videos, posted videos in the post of them doing things to each other and themselves. The police got a hold of it, and it was a big deal. They all went to prison.
Oh, wow.
But I organized a party as a fundraiser for them. So that was my first taste at a mixed event.
They went to prison under obscenity acts or what?
Something like that.
Right. Interesting.
I could research it for you. It was a long time ago.
I'll look it up.
It's called the Spanner case, Spanner.
Okay. So 90 to 94 was by and large women. Mm-hmm. And what happened in 94?
I was offered this venue, and my friend and I decided to do it mixed. It was huge.
And that was the start of Fist?
Mm-hmm. There was nothing like it.
Can we tell the audience kind of what that entailed, what went on, what areas, different areas there were, et cetera?
Well, in 94, we didn't necessarily have a play area. We had a big old dance floor, and it started out as a fetish dance party. Obviously, all the kind of sex went on in the toilets, and we did some pretty hardcore art, fetishy kind of shows. It kind of just grew. So that was going on. And then that club closed, and then I moved to, I had to move around. Then I was at an underground club in central London, completely illegal, that my friend had rented the space, but it was no place to, serve alcohol or have any, have parties. And we did. It was in central London, and it was a basement, and we took it over and we built like little dark rooms, and we had shows from Ron Athley. He's quite a big performer in America.
I'm not a porn.
He's not porn.
Oh,
he's not porn. Body modification, ritualistic type stuff.
Gotcha.
He's an artist.
Right. Wow. How long did the Fist party scene go on? From 94 till
2002.
So 8 years.
It grew and grew and grew and grew, and then by then we were like, I was getting 800, 1,000 people. We had a massive dark room full of sling. We were putting on really hardcore shows. Yeah, there was nothing like it. Not for gays. Yeah. Not for gay and lesbian. Yeah, torture, heterosexual were doing fetish, but not like what we were offering.
And
no.
there were never any negative consequences in terms of the police or anything like that?
Oh, I got shut down by the police.
When was in 2002?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you tell us how that happened?
It's kind of weird how that all came about. After being going for 8 years with no drama, no problems with the police, no nothing. And, this was before social media. This was before the internet. Well, the internet was around, but not like it is now. Somebody wrote a letter to the Scotland Yard and to the police and to the local council and said that I was cutting men's balls off, and that we were selling drugs, and that we blocked all the fire exits, and that my club was a bed of the spread of HIV.
Do you have a suspicion, or you have no way of knowing if there was somebody jealous in the community who did that, or it was an outsider who heard what was going on there? And none of those things you're accused of are happening there, but I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about who might have done that.
I wish I knew. I don't know who. Probably jealousy. Yeah.
So it was 2002 when Fist ceased existing.
Yeah, the police came. They were harassing Raymond, the owner of the club, Imperial Gardens. And then on our very last party, I said, Fist is closed. We had 8 police turned up.
Wow.
8. And you know what's weird? What's really messed up about that? The 6 months prior to that, we've been telling the police that our customers were getting mugged in front of the club. Do you think that they came? Of course not.
Did they shut you down that evening or just?
No, they gave me a warning, but they came to make sure that everyone had their, as they said, willy in their pants. So they were like, no play area, that was closed, and you can have your last party and that's it. But we don't want to see any genitalia on display.
Wow. And that was in a district that was fairly conservative?
Southwark Council.
Yeah.
London, we're divided in here into boroughs. So that's London, Southwark.
I make that point because when we start talking about your next party night, you open that in a neighborhood that's a little more forgiving.
Lambeth? Well, I was actually wasn't going to do the parties anymore. I actually even sold the logo, which is a mistake because now it's worth a lot of money. I sold it, but that's fine. I didn't think I was going to be a promoter anymore. I had given up drugs. I'd been to rehab. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try and be a lawyer. Anyway.
Did you go to school for long?
Yeah.
How long did that last?
Oh, no, I dropped it. Not a couple of years.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I tried. I'm just not that academic. I guess I could be if I applied myself, but I wasn't. And then anyway, so this guy that was running a swingers club kept writing to me, you must open another party. You must open another party. Please open another party. I went, oh, okay. So I went to see his venue and it was amazing. But unfortunately, it was in Southwark again. And the same thing happened where someone wrote to Scotland Yard, someone wrote to the police, except this time the police contacted me and they said that they're not going to close me down and they're really sorry about what happened. I don't know what instigated all that. But what did happen was that this club, Southwark was next to a Church of England, and the Archdeacon put up a fight against their license, and they lost. So we had to move, which is fine.
Your club lost the license?
Not me. I didn't own the premises. No, I hired them.
Yeah, let me make that very clear to the audience, because I was a little confused when we first met. In none of these cases did you own the club. You simply created an event that took place there regularly and could move around.
That's correct.
Okay. So the second attempt in that, in what is the name of the area? Suffolk?
Yeah, Southwark, yeah.
The second, both times you got shut down in Suffolk, how did you immediately look for a place in another area, or was there some time
I did.
And where did you find it?
In Lambeth, where I am now, which is a much more liberal borough in London.
So tell us what happened there and what night came out of that.
So I hard on, obviously the guy, so we're sort of jumping around, I'm sorry. So 2002, I was closed by we were shut down, and I'd sold the name and thought, okay, I'm going to try and make a go of this law career. And in the meantime, this guy kept messaging me, please come to my club and start up a new night. So I went to see it, and he's like, let's just call it Hard On. Let's just make it members only. And it was going great there. We were packed. Everyone was so happy that I was back in business. And then the church next door got offended with the owner of the club, nothing to do with me. He didn't like the swingers. They were a swingers club.
It started out as a straight swingers club, correct?
The venue I was using? Yes, that's correct.
Gotcha. And the church was against that. So they're not discriminating on the basis of same sex.
No.
No.
I don't think he knew.
And would they manage to shut it down?
Yeah.
So where did you go from there?
I went to Lambeth. I can't remember what club did I move to. The same venue that I'm at now, but the name has changed. So I've moved to Lambeth in the Vauxhall area, which is very gay.
Right.
Now it's very gay, which is so funny because it's opposite the MI5 building. The MI5 is the spy network. It's like living across from the FBI. Yeah, FBI.
Yeah.
If they only knew.
I suspect they do.
They'd probably come over.
Everybody's welcome, right?
Exactly.
So you opened it in Lambeth in a second location, and this time it stuck.
Yeah, no problems, nothing.
How long has that been going on for?
Since 2003.
So that's 21 years. Wow. Congratulations.
Hard On, thank you. Hard On will be 21 years in September.
Mm-hmm. I love your naming, your nomenclature. It definitely gets to the heart of the crowd you're trying to attract, both fist and hard on.
Yeah, I gotta say it like it is.
Tell us, from my understanding, you've put on this party in lots of other destinations around Europe. It's not just London any longer.
I have been working in Europe probably for like 10 years.
Where else have those parties occurred?
Berlin, Paris. Actually, we did a few parties in Paris in the 90s with Fist. So Berlin, Paris, Barcelona, Madrid.
Antwerp?
I think that Antwerp. I'm still in Antwerp. Yeah, I've been working in Antwerp regularly for 10 years.
And you did the Canary Islands?
Yeah, I do the Canary Island, Gran Canaria, 3 times a year.
Right. So the brand is everywhere, or at least everywhere in that part of the world.
It seems. We did do America, but it didn't work.
Right. Oh, really? You tried that where?
In 2002 or 3, around that time, actually maybe 2001, before we were invited to do a party for Los Angeles Gay Pride in LA.
Right.
But the guy that brought me out there disappeared in a drug hole, and we weren't made aware that you can't have sex on the premises where you serve alcohol.
Right.
So that was a huge ding dong.
Our regulations can be tricky.
Yeah.
And oftentimes they're not followed, and who knows if people get paid off or what.
Well, God, they all turned up with the bar and then the license. Oh, my God. Anyway, it didn't really work. I think due to the fact that there wasn't enough promotion and that this guy just kind of left me to it with his boyfriend who didn't have a clue. So, yeah, we lost a huge amount of money.
So let's step to the side of the nightclub business for a while and talk about 2 things. You've had a number of relationships, the most recent one, I think, ending in 2015 or so. And I just want to get your perspective on that. And then, as an aside, somehow or other, you end up spending some time in India and falling in love with the country. So now you go there every year for 2 or 3 months, as much time as you can spare. I'd like you to talk about both relationships and, I don't know what the right word is, Zen in a place like India.
Oh, Zen? I don't know. I just love the culture. Okay, so I've had loads of relationships, being that I've been gay for what am I, 61? So, since I was a teenager. And yeah, girls are fun. It's just that my last relationship, it was very apparent that she was unhappy with my work.
Not so much the nature of what you did as the fact that it's all consuming.
Commitment.
Yeah.
The commitment that I have for my clubs and putting on parties is huge. So she was very unhappy with that. And subsequently we broke up.
I mean, you told me that even if you spend 2 months in Goa on the west coast of India on a regular basis, there's not a day that doesn't go by when you're not working on the business, wherever.
Never.
Right.
Never.
So that could be hard for someone who wants more of a time commitment from their partner to put up with. At the same time as I'm sure there are people that would be happy to be in a relationship if you were open to it. Let's also talk about the fact that it's not apparent looking at the screen right now, but you kind of represent exactly the image of the, rebel, lesbian, fetish professional.
Yes, I'm still that.
You've got tattoos. You've got short hair. You ride a motorcycle. Anything else? Anything else I'm missing?
And I don't take no shit.
That's right. Thank goodness. Otherwise, you still wouldn't be there 30 years though.
Let's think. Yeah, I think I'm actually not a tough person, but I think being in this industry, I've had so many people try to take it from me or steal my stuff or knock me or break down the fortress that I've had around my business to keep it successful. You wouldn't believe it. It was constant. You just have to be resilient. That's all.
I got to meet you in a setting with 6 of us over a private.
My brother, yeah,
a private dinner party, and I found you delightful. Now I can imagine maybe if I met you in a bar during a party evening, you're probably going to have to be very brusque and, and curt because you're running around doing things. So do people try to take advantage of you, or do they push you and test you and, or are you able to, because you're in charge, to kind of do what you need to do?
Yeah, all that. But I handle it better as I'm getting older.
Mm-hmm.
I handle it much better. Where I used to scream and shout, and but I handle it better as I'm older. And people test me and push you, but not so much now.
Do you think that you're doing what you're doing because it was kind of destined to be, or did you just accidentally drift into something and it matched your personality?
I drifted into it and it matched my personality. You couldn't ask me when I was in my early 20s, oh, you'll be running like a really famous sex club in your 60s. Oh, really?
I don't think anybody could foresee that. How does it feel? Maybe the last major question, how does it feel knowing that while you may have stumbled into this profession, the formula you developed has been emanated all over Europe and perhaps even further abroad?
Probably, not as hardcore as Fist was, because back then there was nothing like it. It was groundbreaking, there's nothing. And obviously when things become popular, they become, what's the word, homogenized or acceptable? What we were doing back then was not acceptable, even on the mainstream gay scene. But one thing I can say is that we started combining, so the dance music and the playroom and the sex shows, and no one was doing that. No one. And we started to do it. It just happened. It's not that we set out to create it. We're just like, oh, let's try that. Let's try that. And I can tell you now, if you look at any fetish party in Europe,
right,
and probably in the UK, they do all those things.
I'm going to come back to that question in a second because we haven't really answered it yet.
Okay.
But I want to mention one other thing we spoke about, and you can handle this as diplomatically as you would like. Over the time you've been doing this, out in the world where people get their sexual content and their media, fulfillment, the world has moved from porn being produced by film companies, by producers who often had a kind of a shady reputation and kept most of the profits for themselves and had all of the porn stars and the people who were filming underneath their thumb. And it may have worked, but it was clearly to the benefit of the porn producers.
Companies,
Yeah. Now, just like in other industries where there are disruptors that change the nature of the industry, so Uber changing the car ride industry and Airbnb changing the room lodging industry.
Yeah, the hotel,
OnlyFans and Just for Fans have developed, and they are disruptors where no longer do you need a big producer who does it all and keeps all the money. They're just a platform that hosts the individual producers of porn, keeps a certain percentage of it, but much smaller than the producers used to get. And the porn stars themselves are able to get wealthy. And so during that period, a lot of those people used to be regular performers at your club. And for a reason I'd like you to explain, not all of them made that transition in a way that allows them to do both OnlyFans, filming and live porn shows.
Well, I think porn actor, so acting, if you're on a stage, you're acting. You're able to perform, get on with the audience, get an erection, play with guys. And I think after COVID was probably responsible for this big, huge burst in OnlyFans Just for Fans, because you couldn't go out and people needed to make money. So they started doing things at home or in hotel rooms. Yeah.
So when that happens, either the performer is producing in front of a camera by himself, or maybe he has one person who's filming it, right?
Or two or three. So the transition from that doesn't make you, I'm sorry, a porn actor on a stage. No, we've had a lot of issues around that. I don't feel like some of the guys probably going to be mad if I say this, because there are some good porn actors around. We've had Rocco Steele. We just had him last month. Now he's a daddy, and he's great, but he's been around. He's old school. But the newer generation, not really.
Well, I think
Not really.
kind of makes sense if you've been performing privately effectively, right? It's easier to get excited and you just it's kind of a narcissistic pleasure. You're getting off on the fact that you're doing this, but you're not having 500 people in front
There's
of
the
you.
eyes looking at your dick. No.
Right, exactly. And so the pressure that places on someone who hasn't done it ever or for a while is understandable. But the result is less performers available who can do what's necessary to get the porn show done in front of people. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've had trouble with that. We've had a lot of trouble with that. Yes,
Right.
that's correct. Or being on stage and being acting, inventive, acting. They kind of get on and go,
Or playful, engage the audience.
Yeah.
Intimidated by it, right?
Exactly. And yeah.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. If we didn't hear this conversation and think about it, we wouldn't realize that there have been changes over 30 or 40 years in your industry like in the others. Some of it's technologically related, some of it is interpersonal, but it's very different today than it was in 2002 or in 94 when you started Fist, right?
Well, I can tell you, I didn't have to work 3 times as hard as I do now to make less money. So back then, we would just open the doors and, a little bit of organizing and we would be rammed. But, the internet and the grinders and all those apps and things like that. And we went through a whole period of, I thought we were going to have to close when all those apps, I can tell you when they first came out. So when was that?
Like Grindr and Scruff, that would probably be
Scruff and Gaydar. We had Gaydar was really big here back then. Probably like 2007, 2008. So I can't remember when, but somewhere in that period, maybe even later.
I think Gaydar and Manhunt were they were big in the early 2000s, but the current class of Grindr and Scruff and all of those didn't happen, like you said, until the later part of that decade.
But we felt for 2 years we really struggled. I thought I was going to have to just close because our numbers went down dramatically.
How did you manage that transition?
We struggled.
What changed to make it work later?
Well, I didn't give up. And my tagline is, you come to my club, you try before you buy. So you can't try before you buy when you're on the bloody Grindr trying to find someone to come around that looks like the picture they put there. Can you?
And they never do.
No, they turn up and they're 20 years older and 50 pounds heavier. And
Right.
yeah, I've heard that from everybody. So I always say, try before you buy. You come to Hard On, 300-400. I'll have that one, that one, that one. You either come home with me or I'll have sex with you here and bye.
Well,
like that.
That's really interesting because there aren't as many bars as there used to be, maybe a third as many, let's say, in New York City. And the lesbian bars are down to in the U.S., 15, I think I read. So there are not as many. And even where there are bars, gay men don't know how to cruise anymore. We've lost the ability to look someone in the eye across the street or a room and playfully engage each other and then connect, go home and whatever. Now, everybody, if they go in a bar and they've got their phone in their hand, they see somebody 30 feet away and they're texting them rather than going over and saying hello. So you offer kind of a change of pace, a real old world experience of engaging people. Is that fair?
Oh, thank you. I would think so. Yeah. I mean, I sometimes do see guys on their phone. I'm like, well, you're wasting your time here. So either put that away or you're wasting your time. You're sitting here on the phone. Why are you on the phone?
Yeah.
When you've got 200 cocks in there, why are you waiting for? They'll laugh. But it's true. But people do come in and they certainly have fun.
So back to my question earlier.
Yes.
How does it feel knowing that you pioneered a form of entertainment and have made it last, even with adjustments, over 30 years to the point where now your latest incarnation, which is Hard On, is in fact appearing in a dozen places around mostly Europe and I guess Canaries are kind of Africa. But
Gran Canaria. It's called Gran Canaria. It's got a very big sex scene there. Very big.
Right.
Maspaloma, that's correct. Yes, yes.
I heard about that in 1983 in Mykonos. People were telling me about Playa del Inglés in the
That's
Canary
correct.
Islands. Right.
Very gay.
And I've yet to go there, so it's on my list. Well, this has been really a lot of fun because it's unusual. We don't get to talk to people in your line of work very often because there aren't very many of you who've made it last the way you have. You've thrived. You've dealt with all kinds of adversity, and here you are still standing. I think somebody had a motto about that. But congratulations.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to say before we close?
I hope to see you guys at Harlem one day soon.
I will definitely be there the next time I'm in London. Now, does it go once a month or what's the...
I'm only once a month right now. We're just the third Saturday of the month. This year's been a little different. Some years we have many parties constantly, but we'll see. Things might change. It's a little bit, we're not quiet. I mean, Harlem, London is very busy, but in terms of me traveling around, not so much.
Well, I will, before I was in London in March and then I spent a night at Heathrow in April, but I will contact you before I come next time. So I'll make sure the timing works. Thank you for being with us here today and sharing the secrets of your business.
Okay. Bye.
Take care.
The podcast you've been listening to is produced by Mike Balaban and Tom Walker, recorded and researched by Mike Balaban, with editing and music from Henry Lay.